Hello beautiful people. In today's video we are going to learn how to create this button hover effect in Figma. And before we get started, I want to encourage you to subscribe to this channel and like this video for more contents like this. So I'm going to start by moving this component down, this button component. I'm going to create a duplicate of it. Although this is a component, so you can create your button separately, because I'm going to detach this from the mother component so that we can recreate the component. So I'll detach the instance. But if you want to recreate your button, you can go ahead to recreate your button, or let me just create a new button so that we'll move together. So get started, right? So in this button, there's something I'm going to do that is going to be slightly different from the way I create buttons. So instead of just wrapping this into the button straight up, I'm going to wrap this inside an initial auto layout before now wrapping the auto layout with another auto layout, which will now become the button. So I'll do this first, add auto layout, then I'll call this one content. And this one, I'm going to remove all of the padding, change it to 0. Then I'm going to create another auto layout over it. Then this is the one I will now call my button. And why I created this button like this is because I want to create two texts inside this. Then we'll be able to move it and get this effect. You can see that the text is moving up. So let's go back. Then I'm going to create the padding of this button. So I'm going to give it a 28 pixel padding here and 14 pixel padding up and down. 24 rather, is it 24? Okay, 28. Then make sure the width and height is hug and hug so that we get the desired result. So I think this is 28, yes. So 28 is good enough. Then we are going to fill this button with the color here. Then I'm going to round the corners of this button to 6 pixels. So now our button is done. So for us to create the effect, the hover effect that we want to create, so we are going to create another rectangle that we have the same measurement as this button. So let us check the measurement. This is 1.141 pixels wide and 47 pixels tall, right? So I'm going to click my rectangle button, then I'll create a rectangle that looks like the button. So this will be 141 and this will be 47. Then I'm also going to round the corners to 6. Then I'm going to bring it into this button like this. So it might not place itself inside because they are the same size. So what you can do is you can just copy it and paste inside. Just press Ctrl V, then to paste. So when you paste now, because these are not layout, so it will take its own space, but don't worry, just set it to absolute position. It will go back. Set the rectangle that we placed inside to absolute position, because we don't need it to be part of the content. We just need it to perform some functions inside the button. So once we have done that, we are going to delete this. Then we will move this, move it to the center and horizontal center too. Then I'm going to remove the fill. Then I'm going to add stroke. So this stroke will carry 2 pixels. So I will not just use 1 pixel because I want the stroke to be very obvious, right? Then once I'm done with this rectangle, I can call this one line, right? Let me just call it line, because this is the line that we're going to be using as the stroke of the button. So the next thing I'm going to do is to create another rectangle. So because this line is already a rectangle, we can make a duplicate. So I'll make a duplicate which I will fill with white, but not necessarily white. Whichever color comes in is okay. But then I will remove the stroke now. So this button, this rectangle now, we are going to use it to create that effect. So I'm going to reduce the height of the button to something like this for vertical. Then I'm going to make a duplicate for the horizontal. So I can just call this one top and call this one left, So whichever angle you want the thing to come from is what you use. So for the left one, I'm going to expand it down again to the height 47. Then I'm going to reduce it from this side to the left, just like that. Right. So let's check the height of this one. This one is 4 pixels. So we can change this one also to 4 pixels. 4. So top and left, then we're going to make a union with top and left. So I will click and hold top and left to do a multiple selection for both rectangles. Then I'm going to come here and create a union selection. So once I create a union selection, everything goes off balance again, but we are still going to set it to absolute position so that it goes back. Then I'll set it to left and top. Then I'm going to make a duplicate. I can now call this one maybe top left, right? Top hyphen left. Then I'm going to create a second duplicate. So I'll just press Ctrl D to duplicate. Then I'm going to flip this horizontally, and I'm also going to flip it vertically. So when I flip it horizontally and vertically, you can see that it's occupying only the right and the bottom. So we can now call this one right bottom. Right. So we have the top left, we have the right bottom. Now we need the tool. We need to duplicate this line. So we can call this one top line, and we can call this one. We are going to make a duplicate. Then we'll call the second line bottom or base, whichever one you prefer. Bottom. Right. Then I'm going to move this down. Then I'll leave this like this. So the top on top left, bottom on right bottom, or bottom right, whichever one. Let me change it to bottom right. So next we are going to create a mask. We're going to create a mask with both of these, bottom and bottom right, then top and top left. So let's start with bottom and bottom right. So I will click and I will select both bottom and bottom right. Then I'll come here and I'll say use as mask, right? Then I'll do the same. So I'll do the same for top and top left. I'll say use as mask, or you can see the shortcut Ctrl Alt M. So then I'm going to rename this to top left, and this to bottom right. Yeah, so now we have our button looking very good. So the next thing we are going to do is we are going to make sure that this color, this thing that looks like the stroke around it, we want to make sure the color is black, just like the stroke. So just pay attention to what I'm doing here. On the left, I come to selection colors and I look for this color, because this is the color. We have black, green. This is the only third color, and if I click it, it's going to select this. Then I'm going to change it to black. I'll just put 0 here, and that's it. So the next thing we're going to do is to make a duplicate. So before we make a duplicate, let's call this button hover /hover. So this will be the one that we have when we hover. Then we'll make a duplicate up and call this one button /default. Right. So that means this will be the default and this will be the hover. So we're going to create a component set with these two. But before we create a component set, let us put this in the position of the default. So before we even continue, Ctrl Z. Yeah, so before we make the duplicate of the button, let's work on the text. So remember I told you that this text, we are going to have the text scrolling just like this, right? So what we're going to do here is we're going to make sure this is fixed Don't set it to fill. Let's set it to fixed. Right. Then we're going to set this get started to an absolute position. So once we set it to an absolute position, we're going to make a duplicate of the text. So we have to get started text now. So the second one, which is under, we're going to move it down. Right. We're going to move it down just like this. Maybe yeah, just like this. Then we'll come back to content and we are going to clip content. Right. So once we clip content, it makes the second one disappear, but it's still there. So we're now going to make the duplicate now. So just like I said earlier, I'll call this button default / default and button / hover. So the next thing we are going to do at this point is to create a component set. So I'm going to highlight both of them, and I'm going to, okay, before we create component set, sorry, we have to get rid of this stroke for the default button. So I'm going to come here, come to top left, then I'm going to come here, open the group, then inside the union, open the union. So inside the union selection, we're going to come to left. Remember, left, this is top left, so we want to move it to the top. So we'll just resize the rectangle and move it to the top. Move it until it gets to this curved region where you won't see anything again. Then we'll come to the top. We'll do the same thing to the top. Then we'll also move it till we get to this level where you can't see anything. Come to the left and adjust it again. Yes. So we do the same thing to the bottom right. So bottom right, I'll open the mask again. I'll come to the union selection. I will open the union selection. Then I'll click on the left. So because we made the duplicate, so we are supposed to rename this to right, but I forgot. But notwithstanding, we already know what it does. So I'll just move it to the bottom like this. Make sure we're totally out of the button like this. Then we're going to do the same thing to the top. We're going to move it like this. Right. And now you can see that we have our button without the stroke. So now we're going to create a component set with this. Then I'll come here, create component sets. Then also you see the naming convention that will get the button where we say button / default and hover. So what that does is that once you create a component set, it just automatically names your components. So we have default and we have hover, and the name of the component is button. So that's the whole point of using the /. So I'm going to bring this, copy this. No, I'm not copying it yet. We'll switch to prototype and we are going to connect the two buttons. So this will move to this on hover, right, while hovering. Then we can leave it as smart animate, ease and out 400 milliseconds. It's okay. Then we move it. So another thing that we need to finalize here is, remember we made a duplicate of this text. So for us to get that effect, we now select the two texts here inside the second one now. Then I'm just going to move it. Just use my direction key to move it till I get the second one into the stage or into the frame. So that's just how we can move it. And now let's copy this and place it back in the design, and let's play it. So you can see. So that's how you create this button. So if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe if you find it very educative. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the very next one.